Welcome back!
Bible Contradictions.
Okay, this week we have yet another critic claiming there's contradictions in the Bible. Pastor Trenton, take a look at this video clip.
So did they hear the voice, or did they not hear it? So were they standing up, or were they on their knees?
Pastor Trenton, what do you think about this?
Thanks, Jim. Oh, the claims of the critics. It's written that they fell down. It's written that they were standing. It's written that the men heard, but they didn't see. They saw, but they didn't hear. However will I respond to this? Listen, with perceived problems, there are always scriptural solutions, and these solutions are actually simple. The problem is not what the Bible actually says, but with what the critic adds to what is written, or assumes for what is not written. So let's examine carefully what is written. The scriptures are on the screens for you to examine. In 26:14, it's written that the men fell down to the ground. In 9:7, it's written that they stood. Now, the critic can only make it a contradiction by assuming that they never fell and then stood after falling. But logically, if they fell, they most likely stood back up, especially if they had not been blinded, yet saw Paul, he had been blinded. So what you're neglecting here is the important detail of time, when the events took place. And why would they have stood speechless anyway? Well, because they had been overcome by a bright light and they heard the voice, just as it is written in 22:9. It is written in 9:7, they saw no person, not that they didn't see the light. The critic would have to assume they didn't see the light, even though they saw no person from whom the voice originated. It is written in 22:9 that the men did not understand the voice, not that they didn't hear it. The critic would have to assume the men did not hear what they did not understand. It is written in 26:13-14 that the men fell to the ground because of the light they saw. And though it is not written in this specific verse that they heard the voice, the critic would have to assume they never heard the voice, even though it's written elsewhere that they did hear the voice, even though they didn't understand it. An argument from silence is fallacious. It's just a horrible argument. Also, because it's all written by the same author, it seems even less likely it would be a false contradictory testimony. If it were truly contradictory, don't you think the author would have rewritten his story so as to make every detail coincide without question? In addition, we must remember that the author of Acts is the very author whom scholars have determined to be a scrupulously accurate historian, even in the smallest details. As it turns out, I wrote an article on that. Also, not only is the book of Acts been deemed historically accurate and reliable, but the author of Acts is the author of Luke, which coincides and affirms what is written in the Gospel of Matthew, Mark, and John. In fact, all of Scripture is intertwined together like one big tapestry which reveals God's nature, our purpose in life, and God's plan for our salvation. So in conclusion, these specific verses under examination, like many other scriptures found within the Bible, are only apparent contradictions, but not actual contradictions. The critic either adds to what is written or assumes for what is not written. Back to you, Jim.
Well, there you have it. Another critic is in error. See us next time.